Performing for Microsoft, Miami to LA, G4, we taking off. I'm a hard worker, I'm far from the boss, but when it's said and done, I'm owning it all. I know you think it's just rap.
Awesome. Well, I got to tell you how excited I am for this panel. We've been talking over the course of the last week, and actually as we were preparing for today, we realized that many of us were going to have our blue check marks on Twitter removed. And so for those of you who aren't familiar with Twitter's previous blue check mark policy, it was a pretty rigorous verification policy, and they had to be able to, you had to be able to meet certain criteria. Also, to keep your blue check mark, you had to attest to not spreading disinformation. And now that has been removed. It was supposed to start last night, and I think at least I lost mine. How about you guys?
Mine's gone.
I lost it while I was enjoying the conference here, so I didn't actually see it happen, but it's gone now.
It's crazy.
It's
How about
crazy.
you?
Yeah, I lost as well, and I don't want to pay. So
neither do I, actually. So full transparency.
and I think that's going to be the new trend, not being verified.
Not being verified.
That's
not
my
being
opinion. Yeah.
And it was crazy. Also, yesterday I did an interview with Bloomberg. Right afterwards, I wanted to tweet the news report and to the reporter, and I could not figure out which Bloomberg handle was actually the verified one, because its checkmark had been removed as well.
Right.
Which is just crazy, You
don't know who is going to be Elon Musk tomorrow, right?
That's right. That's right. How do you think this changes, just to kind of open it up, the news reporting process for those who cover the news, for news media executives? Right. How does this change the dynamics?
It's going to be so difficult for reporters who are looking for like breaking news on Twitter, which reporters do all day, every day now. Yeah. They relied on that blue check mark Twitter was really good at it.
Yeah.
You know, like you said, it was a very vigorous process, and now, I don't want to, say bad things will happen, but people will buy it for $8 and pretend to be other people.
Right.
And reporters are going to be like, how do I verify this? So I think there is going to be like a bit of a slowdown. I think people are going to get tricked. Companies are going to get tricked. News isn't going to get out there in the way that it maybe did in the past. Maybe there will be the rise of a different platform, possibly.
That's interesting. I like that. What if you could maybe speculate would be one of those new platforms that you think could potentially be the new Twitter?
Well, Co just laid off 30% of their staff. That was supposedly to be like the new Twitter. My hunch is that it's TikTok.
TikTok?
I think so, yeah.
Really?
I'm very bullish on TikTok.
Bullish on TikTok, that's interesting.
I mean, regardless of any political, deadlines.
Yeah.
But I'm very bullish as younger generations, that's where they are. And not only then, you have 150 million Americans using that thing. So I believe TikTok is probably it's already happening. I think we have anecdotally, we believe that Twitter is very relevant for media platforms, for publishers, but in reality it's 1%, 2% of the traffic, so it's not that relevant. For news accuracy and fact check, absolutely, that for whoever is in that field, they were relying on blue check marks to.
I would say if TikTok implemented some type of text,
right?
Because they've got the infrastructure already.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
We've seen also Facebook is rumored to be working on a Twitter alternative. Substack has one. I've been having fun on Mastodon, but it's really hard.
I haven't gotten on it yet. Is it worth it?
Cool, yeah.
Would you recommend it?
So it's fun, partially because it is a little bit cozier than Twitter has been, but it's very hard for anybody to kind of rebuild what Twitter spent 15 years working on in terms of being this place where the world goes for news. Even a Meta can't recreate that overnight.
That's right. And Harry, actually, on that same thought, but pivoting back a little bit to both tech and journalism, have you noticed technologies such as Metaverse and AI changing the way news is reported and consumed?
Well, it's interesting because if we had been having this conference, this session a year ago, we the entire thing might have been about the metaverse because there was so much excitement over that. And then generative AI came along later last year and kind of overwhelmed all the hype for the metaverse. So we're now at this point where the metaverse is kind of quiet. And I would not argue that everybody has to get into the metaverse right now, partially because the metaverse doesn't quite exist yet. I would keep an eye on the metaverse just because I think computing over time tends to get more immersive. So whether or not we call it the metaverse, I think that will happen. But right now, AI has so many implications for journalism that it's almost a full-time job for us writing about it and also looking at how it will impact our work as a media outlet.
Absolutely. Yeah, and obviously we had what Mayor Suarez called the Tom Brady of technology. Eric Schmidt earlier today keynoting, talking about how AI will disrupt as well as enhance our lives in so many ways. Just curious, how is Fast Company using AI?
Well, we're doing something which I think every media organization should do right now, which is we're creating a task force to look at that. It makes a lot of sense basically to have some philosophies and rules and regulations about what you do and don't do as a journalism outlet. We've seen a number of publications rush into AI and post stories generated by AI, and then after the fact discover that those stories were full of inaccuracies. So I would not argue that every media company should start using AI to post stories right now. And in fact, you should probably be really, really careful about that. But you should start to think about the longer term implications, particularly because things are moving so incredibly quickly that 6 months from now, AI will probably have a far greater impact on what we're doing than it does right now, and probably in ways that nobody quite understands yet.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. No. And Sarah, at The Block, you're doing some really interesting things by using on-chain data to tell stories. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so one of the things that we do at The Block as experts in crypto is we look at on-chain transactions and on-chain data to tell stories. It's public. I mean, it's the blessing and the curse of blockchain, right? You know, it's a public ledger. And so we had a story out just today about watching, you know, what we call whale accounts, you know, moving Bitcoins from one address to another. There's all kinds of fun things that people, when they guess about these like massive wallets with huge amounts of money, like who owns them? And I mean, imagine if you had access to a bank account information, you could watch, you know, your favorite celebrity, you know, take some money and put it over, oh, what are they doing with that? On the blockchain, of course, you don't know who they are, but you can just watch the money, like, or the coins, move around the ecosystem. So that's something that we at The Block do all the time, and you can tell some really interesting stories out of it. We also, when FTX paused their withdrawals, like right after, like,
I remember that.
Yeah, you know, I'll never forget my editor who was writing it. He was in Europe, and he showed it to me like very early in the U.S. morning, and like he's like, I've got to show you something before we're going to publish it. And I'm like, you know, like 6 a.m. and bleary-eyed, you know, and I opened it up and I saw the headline, and I was just like, you know, I won't say it here, like the words that came out of my mouth. I'm just like, is this real? And of course it's real, because you can see it on chain, right? Right. And I think, you know, that was one of those moments where I knew the world was about to change, you know, because that was going on. We broke that one, but with on-chain data. So, you know, it's a fascinating new type of storytelling that we're able to do, you know, purely out of the technology that comes with it.
Totally. And I'm going to go a little bit off script because I want to come back though to Caio and ask about his use cases as well. But we've seen crypto making a comeback.
Yeah.
What do you think, I got to ask the question, what do you think is in store in the future for crypto?
Yeah, so the one thing I've learned in the last year is to like get out of the prediction game. Like
smart.
Yeah, so there's, no, I mean, you know, the markets are cyclical. All markets are.
That's right.
And so, you know, we've been in crypto winter, so to speak, for the last year. Things are looking a little bit better for prices, but you know, I do believe that this area of finance, it's not. I don't think it's going to behave much different than other markets do with the ups and the downs. Right. So, you know, I think that it does look like the thaw is starting to happen, and for anyone who's been at these conferences over the last 8 months, I mean, the industry did not stop working.
No.
Like they've been, people have been hard at work
despite
the downturn in the prices. And so all of that work, it's going to start, coming out in new applications and new products. They're going to be there. So, perhaps the thaw is here with the warmer weather.
Absolutely.
In the spring. Maybe we're in spring.
I like that. Spring. I like that. Caio, we were talking a little bit about how other media platforms are using AI. How have you seen in Latin America specifically the use of Web3, Metaverse, AI, especially with news media?
Right.
I bought a few years back one of these Magic Leap Creator One editions.
Of course.
And it was amazing.
Right.
One of the actual applications loaded on there was a news outlet. And I was told that actually the person who helped me get it all set up is in the room here, no longer with Magic Leap, but his name is Chris Concepcion, and he's here. Hey, there you are, Steez, my man.
Great.
I'll never forget that. It was that whole experience was absolutely incredible, and so I was told this is how you're going to consume news in the future.
Right.
And
how many times have you used that over the last 24 months?
I have to admit, I don't. I donated it. I donated that piece, but I still am bullish on the technology.
Yeah.
I'm still bullish on the technology.
It's a very interesting question, and I'm not a journalist, by the way. Just some disclaimer. I'm an executive. I co-founded Bloomberg Linea and I operate the business. And I believe that every business is a business, right? Media is a business as well. New tools, new features like ChatGPT or AI or the concept of the metaverse, those are tools to make our life better and make our life easier and make our labor force more productive. We had this experience. I personally heard about a publication, a very big publication, few million users per month, that they started using ChatGPT to create content. Very smart, right? And they reinvented the wheel, and now they're going to get loads of traffic, SEO traffic. Guess what? Google penalized them, and they lost 30% of their traffic, 30% of the traffic week over week. So they regret.
So Google was able to pick up.
Google is smarter than people, right? Right. Let's just put that the algorithm is really smart, and that's what ChatGPT and all the AI is going to. So I think those are features, those are tools. It's really important to have them in the day by day in the team and having people leveraging those tools, like we did 10 years ago with social media.
Yep.
But it's very delicate when you establish your business around that. I think just yesterday we heard the news that BuzzFeed is shutting down, right? BuzzFeed News.
Such a shame.
It was a shame, correct?
I was a huge fan of BuzzFeed.
How many cases like that we heard recently, right? Yeah. So, and then I'm using that as an example because they bet all their business model into social sharing, and guess what? It's not what you cannot rely on Facebook these days to get traffic or to get traction with advertisers and so on. So I think those tools are great. They're here to serve us. But I wouldn't establish a business around a news media business around that. I would leverage as a tool.
As a tool, I like that. I like that. And you talked about TikTok as a tool. I want to get Harry's viewpoint here and have him jump in. Obviously, you got a lot of public figures who have been weighing in on whether or not to ban TikTok. But the irony is, many of them actually have TikTok profiles and use it to engage with their followers and voters and prospective voters. What is your view on how the media should be covering TikTok, especially some of this duality, maybe you could say?
Well, it's really interesting because if the question is, should we be concerned about this company closely allied with the Chinese government using this algorithm, which we know very little about, to attract huge amounts of attention from enormous numbers of people in this country, is that something we should be concerned about? The answer is yes. It's perfectly reasonable.
I agree.
To worry about that. But at the same time, we have seen a lot of politicians who frankly do not understand technology all that well, raising a ruckus over this, not always based on the actual things we should be worried about. So I would say that we need to pay attention to the people who really actually have dug into this and understand it. In some cases, those people are technologists. There probably are some public figures who have thought this through, and paying attention to them, but doing so in a somewhat calm and measured fashion makes a lot of sense. And as reporting outlets, hopefully we can do a good job of helping to spell out the reasonable concerns and the stuff that's not the actual problem we should think about.
Yeah, I agree. Sarah, another cutting edge technology, we talked a little bit about it, ChatGPT has been getting tons of interest from both individuals and major tech investors like Microsoft, one of our partners here. How are businesses and media organizations implementing these technologies from your perspective?
So I think that we at The Block, we are utilizing ChatGPT in some ways. We set up a task force, we put together some policies.
Similar to Fast Company.
Yeah, I agree that all media companies, they need to do it. Because if they're not, their folks are already using it. I mean, it's like, it's here, it's only been 5 months. So, you got to decide how you want it to be used, right? Because it can do so much more than just write stuff for you, right?
It can write some pretty amazing stuff, though.
I asked it, it's funny, I asked it some of the questions that I knew we were going to talk about today.
Really?
Wow. And, it didn't.
Do you have any of the answers?
They're back in my computer.
Oh, man, that would be amazing.
But, it was interesting, though. The answers that it gave me weren't bad, but they were really boring.
Boring?
Boring,
wow.
Yes. And so really generic, really vanilla. And I think that's probably the thing. I read somebody else's analysis of using it for work, and I think they were exactly right when they said it's like having your most junior intern do something for you. So basically they can do a pretty competent job, they can do a lot of the grunt work, but you have to check every single thing to make sure that it's right. And sometimes it's wildly wrong. I asked it once, I put my resume in it, and I was like, write me a bio. I hate writing my own bios, right? So write me a bio.
Same here, I can't stand it.
And it said that I had worked at the New York Times and the Associated Press. I love the New York Times and the Associated Press. I would have loved to have worked there, but I never have.
Said the same thing about me. It says every journalist worked at the Times, essentially.
Yeah, and so it just hallucinated that. It didn't pull it from the internet. I gave it the text of my resume, and it just made it up. So you really, there's tons of applications for it. And, companies and industry would be foolish not to take advantage of it and just say, no, you can't use it. It's a tool just like anything else. But it has to be at this point in time, 5 months out, it has to be so heavily scrutinized with human interaction. I'm not sure how much time it saves at this point due to the fact that you have to go through, sometimes it's it would just be faster to write it myself, right?
Totally.
But I think the implications and the applications are vast. I'm really excited about it.
Same
I'm
here.
very bullish.
One interesting thing that people don't seem to talk about enough is that ChatGPT's index of knowledge is 2 years old, kind of an issue for people in the news business if it doesn't know anything that's happened since 2021.
Yeah, you have to. Yeah, the best way that it works is if you give it the information.
Yes.
Right.
Again,
you interact.
hallucinating.
You have to interact to speak to the bot.
Yeah, exactly.
Bing is pretty cool. Bing is also based on OpenAI technology, but Microsoft somehow plugged it into stuff that's actually happening. So you can ask Bing questions about stuff happening today, and it might be able to recap what happened at Emerge Americas yesterday, whereas
awesome.
ChatGPT would be talking about an old conference.
I'm gonna try that out.
But if you gave it a transcript of our conversation right now, you just copied and pasted it, and put it in there, and asked it to write an article about what we said, it can do that really, really well.
So that saves time as well.
Yeah.
Right? So. On top of that, I'd like to add that there's this operationally new mindset that talent can be anywhere and everywhere.
Do you believe that?
100%. I think, and not only me, right? Justin Bieber was found in a small town in Canada. Last year, you had the most streamed artist on Spotify being Bad Bunny. Not from a different language than English.
Sure.
So talent is everywhere, and that's not only in the entertainment industry, but in the media industry as well. So and also in technology, right? You have also applications helping talent, and so I think operationally we had this mindset that media was New York, London, New York, and that's it. And of course, you have a terroir of great talent there, but that's not true these days. You get a person with their phone producing news, and bigger than many media establishments out there. On the flip side, you have fake news, right? So that's the problem with that capacity these days. But I believe that ultimately these technologies and ChatGPT, they are, like Sarah pointed out, you have to check these days, but they are evolving, and they're evolving at a speed that it's hard to control.
Yeah, no, 100%. Actually, I don't know if my sister is out in the audience. She's there, awesome. She actually sent me this most beautiful poem this morning.
Oh, wow.
And she said, I just read the last text, and I brought a tear to my eye. It was beautiful. Thank you.
Well, but my wife wanted to apply for her daughter's school using ChatGPT application.
Did she do it?
We wouldn't accept it, but but at the end of the day, it was me, rewriting. So
That's awesome.
We should have trust on the ChatGPT.
That's awesome. Well, so just to wrap up the story, I did not realize, I didn't read the text right before, she asked ChatGPT to write it. And it was beautiful. It was absolutely amazing. I couldn't believe it. But you're talking about Latin America.
Right.
How do you see the applications of these types of technologies in Latin America? Do you see it different from in the US, other emerging markets?
So let's just start with the fact that Latinos is, I'm a US Hispanic myself. I'm a Latino. I was born in Brazil. I immigrated to the US a few years ago.
Cidade maravilhosa.
I'm from São Paulo, but I love the Cidade Maravilhosa as well. And Latinos, if it were an economy, would be the 5th largest economy globally in GDP. And then adding Latin America, have an explosive emerging community, to the fact that by 2050, 1/3 of the US population will be Latino. So just let's start with that. So Latinos are everywhere, not only Latin America, they are here, they are in Latin. And I think we Latinos, we are survivors and we are fighters from the get-go, right? And any new technology that makes our life easier and faster, it will be adopted. We are early adopters. You have unicorns that were founded in Latin America and Colombia that deliver things through an app, like Happy. So I believe that the adoption in Latin will be fantastic, as it is in Asia, as it is in every nation with a mobile in their hands.
That's right. Sarah, pivoting back to journalism and its coverage of these technologies, I know you said you're not into making any predictions, so I'm not going to ask you specifically for a prediction here, but do you think it will change how consumers get their news and where they get it from?
I do. Unfortunately, I don't think it'll make things better, sadly. I think that I can definitely see a situation where, just talking like politically, there's, a ChatGPT or a large language model for every end of the political spectrum, right? So if you identify as a conservative or a Republican, you'll go to one source and it'll tell you the answer you want to hear. If you're a liberal or a Democrat, you can go to your ChatGPT of choice, whichever one it is, and that'll give you your answer, the answer you want, not necessarily the right answer, but the answer you want to hear. So I think that is something that's a risk that we need to really think about. Is at least for the most part, when you're in a Google, you put in your query and you have a lot of choices. With these AI models right now, you ask it a question and it gives you an answer in a very authoritative voice a lot of time. So I think that is something that we may want to, that we likely could see, may want to guard against. The other thing is that I think that if we may come to a situation where, we have all these billionaires that own media outlets now. It's the business model that seems to be working for news, right?
Like Bloomberg?
Yeah, or Jeff Bezos
or Elon Musk.
Hey, totally. Right.
Elon Musk,
probably one of the biggest media companies.
But that really high quality journalism is really expensive to produce, and so I can see a situation where there's a real dichotomy in the quality of news that's out there. You'll have the very expensive high quality news outlets that are big, big entities, big outfits, and then the smaller ones will rely more and more heavily on AI generated content, and it's just going to be content. You already see some of this happening in local news, which is a shame. But I can just see that these type of technological pushes exacerbating that and making it worse.
Right.
Also, another concern is it's not clear whether these chatbots will really send people to news outlets. They'll drag in all our information and process it to give their very confident answers. But if they don't send readers to us, nobody's going to read our stuff, and we'll probably have a really hard time making money from our stuff. So in a way, it's even more alarming than the Facebooks and Twitters and Googles were in terms of capturing a lot of the revenue that once upon a time would have gone directly to reporting.
No, totally. And we've got only a couple more minutes, but I wanted to ask specifically with regards to the polarization, we're going a little off script here, of these platforms and technologies. Do you all think that there's anything that we can do from a tech perspective to help break down those silos?
I think it's a business. Media is a business, and you have to see it as a business. And
by that you're saying it perpetuates.
Well, you have two medias in the U.S. that are huge. They make money. They're very profitable. One is a very Democrat, and one is a very Republican. And they cater
liberal, conservative.
They cater communities, right? And they cater those audiences. So it's if I follow that, I kind of admire that, or I follow that trend. So I think it's a business at the end of the day. I don't necessarily agree that to create great journalism you need a lot of money. I think that's the old mindset, like the old school mindset, that how media was catered, and that's one of the reasons why media is dying in a way, right? Which is good as well, because the way we know media is dying and media is changing a lot. Yeah. But I believe that it's okay to have polarization. I don't think it's a problem.
You think it's okay?
I think it's okay. I think you follow whatever you want, right? There is no, as long as the facts are there and you can divide what is a fact and what is opinion.
Yeah.
And opinion is very clear to people. I don't see a problem myself.
That's interesting. I would tend to disagree. I think it's the downfall of society, but that's just my personal opinion. But we got one more minute, and so I'm going to do rapid fire question, again off script here. Everyone said digital news or digital media was going to be the downfall of print.
Right.
One of the things I love to do most is buy my copy of Fast Company at the airport, at the newsstand, and hold it in my hand, flip the pages, and I actually end up keeping it. I don't throw it away, much to my wife's chagrin. But do you think it is or isn't the downfall of print? You might be biased.
We've managed to make print work partially because you may not have noticed that our magazine only comes out 6 times a year. So it's not about news, it's about stuff of more lasting value.
Yep.
And whereas our website and other things used to rotate around the magazine, now it's kind of the digital is at the center, and the magazine is a successful part of that, but it's not the core anymore. Right. And but it's great to see that yes, there are enough people like you to keep the magazine viable.
I think it's the death of it, but the hard copies they're like the luxury item.
The luxury item.
Yeah.
I agree 100% with Sarah. And if you get people 18, 25 years old here in the audience, how many of you have bought the magazine? Over the
definitely
last
in the minority here.
4 people.
There you go.
So
5 people.
I think it's just a cultural thing as well.
Yeah.
So new generations, they are watching YouTube and from the get-go. So I think it is a luxury item. That's what I would think.
Well, I think that's unfortunately all the time that we have for today for this panel. Please give them a round of applause. Thank you so much. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Harry. Thank you, Caio.
Thank you.